Good morning, everybody. It's Catherine Cooke here at the Engine, and this morning I've got two amazing business owners from the Hawke's Bay. We've got John and Fiona Harland from ERG Recruitment, and today we're going to be talking about recruitment in a pandemic and the people shortage market. So, as we all know, people in the business are your best assets, and obviously how you treat them will determine whether you are successful or whether you fail. So right now we're going to be talking about that. So John and Fiona Harland have got 24 years of industry recruitment experience. I love the fact how they're absolutely committed to excellent standards. Part of that excellent standard is that they are StaffSure standard certified by the RCSA. I met Fiona and John 2 years ago at an RCSA luncheon sponsored by Scott Pack Business Finance, and here we are today. I'm just going to start off by, I love my Fridays because on a Friday I get to see the team, and this was the team last Friday on the Zoom call, and they're all wearing, in fact, Fiona, what are they wearing?
Yeah, we're wearing our RCSA Araha Tahamahi t-shirts. So the theme for the RCSA really across Australia and New Zealand is love your work. So t-shirts are in te reo and also in English, and we've got both sets, and we felt that it was really appropriate to wear our te reo t-shirts on Friday.
I love how you not only embrace the on-point situation, but also the culture of New Zealand. Yeah. So, John, I'm going to start with you. You're a business owner, as Fiona is. You've got a business. How are you managing in this pandemic?
Well, Catherine. Look, it's been an interesting challenge for the whole industry. We have regular catch-up with the co-lab and the RCSA with fellow colleagues around the country. The recovery after the first lockdown was very sector related, and I think we're going to see the same situation again with this lockdown. The thing that's impacting most, I think, for our business, you mentioned we live in the Hawke's Bay, but our business is in South Auckland, and predominantly our temporary workforce, our labour hire workforce, which is a major part of our business, is in Maori and Pacifica. And they are wonderful people, and they do fantastic work. And they rely on the money they get from this to feed their families, etc. So the lockdowns have been particularly challenging. We are an industry which distributes. We don't deal in product, or we deal in time and people, and therefore the cost of providing that services is a major part of our revenue. So when we get a revenue requirement of a loss of more than 40% of our business, we're getting very, very marginal in being able to maintain our business, particularly in a labour hire scenario. And I suppose it's even worse in a perm recruitment where there's virtually no business happening during this period. So it's been a very big challenge, and 75 to 80% of our revenue goes out in wages, ACC, holiday pay, all those sorts of things. So you've got, 15 to 20% of your revenue is to cover other costs. At 20% or 30% loss, you're going to lose money even with the wage subsidy. The wage subsidy has been fantastic for maintaining our business and maintaining the lives of those people. Otherwise, they would have to go to WINS and get a benefit, etc. Very, very challenging for them. So the wage subsidy has been good, but from a business perspective, that's all given back to our people, as it should be, and that's appropriate to keep them living. But in terms of maintaining the business, it becomes a big challenge when you've got all the other outgoings. And for large businesses in our sector, 21,500 doesn't go very far, and they've got multiple branches and things like that. We've got a single branch, so it's less of a challenge for us. But even then, profitability is very, very marginal, and without profitability, you're in a loss situation. How long you can maintain that for? So it's an interesting scenario. Fiona would be in a better position to talk about the people aspects and the challenges that they face in this scenario. But from a business point of view, I think what we're seeing is an environment where people are being challenged. They are losing jobs. They're getting new ones. There's a greater amount of pressure on people looking for jobs which pay more. So there's pressure on wage growth, and at the same time, with businesses, that's a challenge when their revenues are either flat or going backwards, and then they're getting wage and salary growth. How that doesn't balance up? So I really feel for businesses across the board, but and big businesses included. You've got the likes of Air New Zealand who have lost thousands of people and they're still losing money. So how long can they bleed revenue for?
How long is it sustainable? I mean, look, Fiona, if I can cross over to you, Fiona. I mean, yes, look, the wage subsidy has been fantastic. As you've gone into this lockdown, people have been not as stressed. I'm not saying they're not stressed, but not as stressed. Because the previous lockdowns from last year, when we first went into lockdown, nobody knew there was going to be any assistance. But I guess it also brings, as John says, the challenges. And the challenge that I'm seeing right now is getting people to work. For $600, I don't need to work. I can get paid to stay at home and not work, and trying to educate them, not tell them, but educate them that it's, the employment contracts are still valid, and you've got to balance, obviously, that sort of care and humility for people versus the fact that, hey, I'm being paid $600 for you to be working. How do you balance that, Fiona, from a people point of view?
Look, I think it would come back to what people are aspiring to moving forward. I think the difficulty with a pandemic is that you tend to lose sight of your long-term goals and aspirations. So the greater opportunity to maybe be topped up through a work and income perspective may take away that desire for long-term growth and maybe long-term goals. When you're in lockdown, your focus is just on day to day. So having to become motivated to get up and do something becomes a lot more challenging. But I think that in general, people do see the good in working. I think they do keep getting up and moving forward. I think, as John said, that there is a challenge with salaries going up, and so people are looking for a greater income, and certainly they need that when their certainty for the future is not as great as it used to be. So the concern with the pandemic is if the business shuts down, where are you going to go? And then looking for a job that is maybe going to pay you a little more, but then is there certainty in that as well? So it is a concerning time, I think, for a lot of people. But when I look at some of the social media threads, there is still a lot of hope out there. And I think people are staying relatively close to the jobs that they have had for some time. With the wage subsidy, by being able to maintain people with an income, you do give them a little hope for the future, and they don't feel quite as uncertain. So for them to come back to work and know that they've been supported through any level lockdown, I think is really, really important, and gives them a bit more focus for the future.
Absolutely. When people are, gainfully employed, it does give them the purpose, and it's a wider reaching, benefits, as John pointed out, the community, the actual Maori Pacifica community. We all know that family is so important to them, and that pay packet is not just feeding one person, it's feeding a community. And that's what I love about what you do, is the reason that we work well together. And I'm going to talk about your general manager, RP Jack, who I know is watching this, and I will get her on here one day. I'll get her here. But the heart-centric approach that you take is very aligned with what we do, and in all that we do. I guess I also keep saying to business owners is be really careful about your own personal brand and your business brand. Like, you're talking about staff shortages out there, and yet I'm hearing people saying to me, oh, my husband's not being paid by his trucking company. He's suddenly been told he's only going to get 50%. Well, you can't be doing that. You still have an employment contract at play, and therefore you do still need to be consulting with people. But let's face it, if you treat people badly, they're only going to be on your books, aren't they, looking for another job? So we've discussed that shortage, which is only going to become more of a problem. Like, people think there's going to be companies going through and it's going to create a bit more of a talent pool out there. But the reality is people will still keep holding on to that business. So, Fiona, what are your thoughts around the way that some people are treating some of their employees at the moment?
Oh, look, I think, one of the things that we've always stayed very true to in our business, and I would say that there is a lot of businesses out there that still do the same thing. We know a lot of our colleagues in the industry think the same way that we do. You've got to remember who it is that you're supporting, and we're all parents ourselves. We've got 2 mums working for us who are working really hard in lockdown, and the challenge with that is that they have school children, so they're trying to parent, cook, clean, and help with the schooling, and that is a real challenge. So I think that the fact that we've got a few life skills enables us to think a little bit more clearly about who the people are that we're supporting. And for us, being able to support the South Auckland community is really quite critical, because we know as a family ourselves in our business that to be able to think about what's happening in the homes that we're helping allows us to just work a little harder on maintaining that philosophy and making sure that we are getting the payments out to the people when we need to, but also giving them a little bit of encouragement, keeping in touch with them. Selena, our administrator paraconsultant, she sends an email to our staff every week, to all our temps, I should say, every week. So we haven't just got contact through the lockdowns. We make sure that we maintain that contact with them and open those pathways for them to have communication with us as well, because not everybody knows where to go to look for help. And if we can keep those lines of communication open, then we hope that people will reach out when they need to, and we can point them in the right direction. It is about protecting your own asset, and our asset is our people. Without our people, we can't keep our business running. So you have to protect your asset. That's both our internal staff, but also the hundreds of other people that work for us at any given time. We have to make sure that they're looked after.
Yeah, look, I say to business owners, look around you, and can you really run this business without these people? So make sure that you get your priorities right. I heard a really heartwarming story actually yesterday from my sister-in-law. She lives out in Pukekohe, and she works for a freight forwarding company out in South Auckland, and she's been working through, they've got a rostered team rotating. Obviously they have to be there because they're an essential business, pushing goods through. And it was actually really heartwarming to hear her say that her firm had basically got some KFC from Christchurch and air freighted it up. And so the guy that was doing the inward freight was asked to go and take the special parcel from the door. And it was just amazing. It was almost tears, she said, of having this KFC situation happening. But it's understanding your people, and it's going the extra mile. And I love how, Fiona, you talk about communication, because it's been interesting the amount of people that have actually listened and learned from last time about picking up the phone and ringing people. You need to check in with people, and also, just you're talking about, the teaching and the nurturing of those people with young families. Talking to another friend of mine yesterday, and she said, we understand that this person is only going to be able to work a couple of hours here and a couple of hours at the end of the day, because they've got to be teacher, mum, caterer, nose wiper, entertainer, and all that during the day. So, John, I'm going to come to you. Obviously, we're talking about, the fact that, we're having to work in our homes right now and all that sort of thing. And there was a time, John, where, 2 years ago, if we even thought or entertained about people working at home, there was just this big uproar. No, we can't have people working at home. They need to be in the office. Need. Talk me through about how your approach and what you're doing to educate businesses around that flexibility and adaptability.
Yeah, that's an interesting challenge. I mean, I have a view. Business at the end of the day is about people and interaction, and I don't think you can ever get away from that. So, what we've seen is I've seen some colleagues who've moved all their people back into working from home, etc. And now there's a lot of pushback for them to come back into the office. Ours is a people industry, so I can understand it there. But I think every business relies on that interaction between humans. So I think you know, the flexible work environment's fine in a lot of industries, but it doesn't suit everybody. And in our industry, you know, interviewing a person by Zoom or whatever, you miss all the body cues, you miss body behaviours and things that you'd normally pick up. You don't get that from a computer or this sort of Zoom environment. So I think there are some real challenges in that. But I think we will see a move to more flexibility, no doubt. But I doubt whether we'll get to a situation where there's more days spent at home working to working in the office environment. So maybe a 4-day week will become, and 1 day at home type of thing, or maybe even a 2-day would probably be the maximum I could see in the future, because people do need that interaction, but also that break from the family, as Fiona talked about. The mothers need to get away from the kids and the husband who's driving them nuts, you know, because he wants to get to work and he can't. There's all those sorts of challenges, and it's been around for a long time, this flexibility. You know, when computers came in, there was everyone's going to be working from home in 10 years' time. That was 30 years ago when I first heard those sorts of statements. Well, that never happened, and I don't think it will ever happen. It's always, as I say, business is about people interacting. Sales, how do you make a sale over? I mean, online shopping, things fine in a COVID environment, but will it remain so when we get back to an open economy? I don't think so. I think women love to go and shop, don't they? So do men, but they're just different shops. The men will be in the sports shop, and the women in the clothing shop, and that's absolutely fine. But people like to go and feel things and touch things. So I think, there will be changes, but I don't see it as being the panacea for businesses going into the future where everything will be done remotely. I think that's something that just won't happen. I could be wrong, but I don't think.
I think it comes down. Sorry to interrupt. I think it comes down to what you've been saying, though, John. Is that, you know, and Fiona, you've got to communicate and consult with people. You know, one glove doesn't fit everybody. And I love how you mentioned the 4-day week, because it's something I do champion, but at the same time, it's not something that's going to be able to be adapted across every industry standard. But, you know, there are certain ways around it. So whereas one company might be able to do the 4-day week, another company might have to do longer hours to do the 4-day week, or look at rotational shifts or things like that. 4-day week doesn't necessarily mean that you do more hours. It means that you give back some time back to the family. And you do actually, it is proven to produce more productivity. I guess coming back to you, Fiona, you know, and you know, I'm a people person too, and I guess I'm really struggling with this, even though I say I'm not, but I am. The reality is I need to be amongst it as well. I need to be with people, and I kind of reached my surge capacity, if I could just call it that, on the weekend. And yesterday I found myself just like completely going, you know, I had to stop, you know, and it wasn't that I worked on Saturday, but I actually went outside on Saturday and I actually stopped and I saw the sunshine, but Sunday I paid for it. But Fiona, you know, you're getting your team online and doing that sort of thing is just so important, and the smiles on everyone's faces. I know that we've also got a front up to a picture being taken and look like we're happy, but they don't look unwell, they look well. So Fiona, how do you keep that culture alive in your organisation?
Oh, look, again, it comes back to communication, Catherine. We have a Zoom every Monday and then one every Friday. Friday is our Fab Friday or our Fun Friday. So we usually try and come up with a theme, which can be a challenge when you're in a level 4 lockdown, because, I mean, where do you go and get your funny wig or your large sunglasses? But no, we try and keep that level of communication alive. But what John and I did say first off this time round was that, particularly because we had 3 new staff working with us. Nick had gone through the last lockdown with us in 2020. So Api and Nick were really quite across everything. But we did say to the others, it's really important to get up and walk away. You know, to work your day in shorter hours or in bursts when you're feeling it. And I think everybody needs to consider that, because like you, Catherine, you know, I mean, I didn't even leave the house on Saturday. You know, you work through the week, and then come Saturday, I'm like, oh, I just can't be bothered. And so I did chores around the house. But to actually physically make yourself get up, go outside, go for a walk, and sit somewhere away from your technology, I think is really, really quite critical. And keeping that, and I guess giving permission. You know, how often do we get permission to do that? So we were really clear in the beginning of this level 4 lockdown that the guys shortened their work hours, walked away from the computer, managed what they were doing on a day-to-day basis around all the other duties, particularly for Selena and Rachel, because they are mums, and they've still got the kids at home. But just in general, anybody, I think, needs to work in a different way. I don't think, even in a work day in an office, you still get up, you have your smoko breaks, you go out to the shops, you go and grab lunch, you might go out and see your clients. So you're actually moving a lot, and you don't realise it. And it's not until you're at home, in the home office, that you realise how little you may have gone from the kitchen, or you are only going from the kitchen to the work office to the bathroom. You're actually only going into 3 areas. Whereas when you are in an office, you are surrounded by other people. You can have the jokes and the you know, the conversation, and then you can step outside and move away. So yeah, working from home is wonderful. I mean, John and I have been working from home now together for over 6 years, so we've become a little more used to it. And I tend to work better in the morning, and then I like to, you know, tail off in the afternoon. I like to get a lot done before midday, and then have a bit of a break, and then maybe another hour, an hour and a half. And I've learnt that over time. So I pick the moments when I'm feeling probably the most productive, and I think it's really important to focus on that. It's a little bit like being a sports person at the end of the day. A sports person is either full on in the morning and might tailor off in the afternoon, or they are at their best in the afternoon. So, you know, it's learning to work with your rhythm, and understanding that it's okay to do that. It's absolutely okay to do that.
I like how you talked about the permission, because I've been talking about that a lot lately. You know, even if you are feeling, you know, not in a good space, give yourself permission to deal with it, and then put it in a box and put the lid on it, and then go out and do what you need to do. I also like the fact that, you know, you talk about the rhythm, because that's really important. I'm a night person. I focus better at night, and I get up in the morning and I'm just like, oh, Groundhog Day. And that's a movie I absolutely never liked, that whole Groundhog Day. Oh my gosh, if that ever happened in my life. And it is happening. It's happening right now, Groundhog Day. So look, I want to dive into something that on my radar, on my landscape at the moment, that's going to present quite a challenge even in your business, and that is to be vaccinated or not vaccinated. Now, I'm not going to start a debate with both of you about what is right and what is wrong. It is a personal choice. But I want to tell you what is happening for me right now. So what is happening for me right now is I've got businesses in a level 2 whose clients are saying, are your staff vaccinated or not vaccinated? My clients are thinking, where's this going? And then it's going to the point that the client is saying, if they're unvaccinated, we don't want them on our workplace, in our workplace. So that's going to become quite a dilemma. And so I'm having conversations with a lot of businesses right now where I get all the team on a Zoom call, and I'm basically telling them what is happening for me out there in the level 2 with those businesses, so that we can actually discuss the elephant in the room. Because what generally happens is, if the elephant in the room is not discussed, what will normally happen is, oh, my employer is telling me I have to be vaccinated, and that's not what the employer is saying. Nobody wants to be in this position. So are you experiencing that right now? Are you experiencing these type of conversations? And also from the employees saying, I don't want to be in a car with someone who's unvaccinated if I have to share a car to do my work. How are we going to navigate that? John?
That's an interesting one, because it's something that our industry's been facing up to of recent times. We've got a scenario where it's illegal to discriminate, and quite appropriately. So, you know, what you've got to be careful of is that if you make a mandate like that, then you're going to be subject to some either action on a discrimination basis, Or alternatively, you're going to be faced with a ERA claim for unjustified dismissal, whatever. And that would be valid under the current scenario. The thing that people got to remember too, with our industry where we place our employees into a client's environment, then there's a dual responsibility. There's a triangular employment legislation which governs that we must behave in a responsible way, and so must our clients, and we take joint responsibility on those sorts of things, safety and the like. But at the end of the day, whilst we can't mandate our existing employees, and our employees are our temp employees as well, they're our employees, they work for us. So we've got responsibility for them. We can't mandate that they have a vaccination, but our clients can say we don't want them on our site, and they would be valid in doing that because each assignment is a new assignment for them. So they can validly do that within the law. They can't make that stipulation to their existing staff. Otherwise, they'd be in a situation of being outside the law and subject to action. So they've got to be very careful in that. But you people, as an employer, if you're employing a new person, you can put it into their letter of offer that they must be, the offer is dependent on their being fully vaccinated. They can choose not to answer that question, and if they don't, you are free to say, well, I will assume therefore that you aren't vaccinated, and we're not going to proceed with the employment. So, but there's responsibilities on both sides, and it's a really difficult argument, isn't it? I can understand.
Yeah, look, it is extremely difficult, and there was an ERA hearing that came out a couple of weeks ago, a determination, and a custom worker took a case to the ERA about being unjustifiably dismissed, and the ruling was, it was upheld, and it was based around health and safety. So the company is in a very precarious situation, in that not only does it need to uphold the employment law aspect, it's also got to uphold health and safety. Yeah. So do I do health and safety and not go to prison, or do I do employment and run the risk of going to prison, kind of thing? So I guess the moral of the story really comes down to just that conversation. And as I said, dealing with the elephant in the room before it becomes the elephant in the room, that's the bigger elephant, kind of thing. So Fiona, what's your viewpoint on this?
Yeah, look, I think it's unknown territory at the moment. It's not a conversation that the globe has had per se, but I think the more we learn and the more we move forward and the more it becomes the norm, the less of a conversation it's going to be. So I think we have to be gentle with each other and just allow this to work its course. I do think there are valid reasons under health and safety for people to have had that conversation. It could be that it is an environment, for example, where people are at risk. And if people are at risk, then you have to have that open conversation with them. You know, we've just added to our registration form the question, have you had your COVID vaccination, 1, 2, or prefer not to say? And I guess we're going to take the view that if people tick the box, prefer not to say, that we take the assumption at this point in time that maybe they haven't had a vaccination. And we can then determine what is going to be the right environment to put that person into. But it's all part and parcel of having those open, gentle conversations with people. This shouldn't become a discriminatory situation. It should be where we allow people to work through their own emotions, their own family situations, to allow this vaccination process to work its way through. I think as human beings, we don't like being told what we can and cannot do. And if anything, the global pandemic has caused this angst right round the world. However, you know, at the end of the day, people do like to protect themselves, and you know, one of the things that I said to our team, we have to remember that as mums, we've had our children vaccinated before they even turn 6 weeks old. And my daughter in Melbourne is due this week. She's 40 weeks pregnant now, and she's already had her 2 COVID vaccinations. And that's just purely because she's in a location of interest within the shire that she lives in, Melbourne, which has got COVID going from shop to shop to shop. So literally it doesn't matter where she walks at the moment. She is being pinged to then go in and have another COVID test. And at 40 weeks pregnant, she is concerned about that. So, you know, that adds a whole nother layer of angst and uncertainty to a lot of people. So I do think we need to be gentle with this conversation. I don't think there are any hard and fast rules unless it is an absolute health and safety situation, but it should be a conversation.
Absolutely.
I think we have to have it.
Can I add something there?
Yeah, sure.
At the end of the day, if you're going to mandate something like a vaccination test, then vaccination rather, you are going to have some pretty solid grounds as to why your environment needs to have that scenario in place. Because if you haven't, then you are going to be subject to action and successful action. But if you are in a food environment, for example, then obviously you've got a very good
or aged care as well. Or,
yeah, absolutely.
So there's some pretty obvious examples of where vaccination will be compulsory, but until such time as we have a much greater
understanding,
uptake of the vaccination, then we're going to have to be a little bit more reasonable about how we action it.
Yeah, I think like getting a whole company online and getting people to have those courageous conversations has been quite important, because somebody might be, in fact, just recalling a company I had online last week, and there was a couple of people who were very anti-vaccination, but it wasn't until they actually heard the fear behind some of their colleagues being in a vehicle with them if they weren't vaccinated, and them saying, well, even if I'm vaccinated, it will wear off. And if you're unvaccinated, I might get it. And I don't want to put my family at that risk. And when you have those conversations, it's very brave for people to be able to say that, because in a lot of respects, they're worried about retribution, but we need to have that conversation without that retribution and find the balance that works for everybody. Let's kind of move on from Delta and vaccinations and talk about recruitment. And so, you know, I always say to people in business, when someone's leaving, they go into reactive mode. Oh my God, Mary's leaving, I've got to replace Mary. And I go, no, pause, reflect, what do we need? So it's an opportunity, right, John?
Absolutely. It is an opportunity. I think, you know, what we're seeing in COVID is that there is more pressure on people leaving for more money. And there's obviously that's and more counter offers happening and things like that. So that comes back to that what we talked about looking after your staff. Really important. People are changing roles for more money, so you need to consider that you can afford to do that. And as you say, step back when you do get a resignation. Do we need that role? Do we need that person? And if you do, it's a no-brainer. But we are seeing more counter offers and more difficulty in retaining people in their current roles. And there are ways of getting around that. I mean, we use on permanent side, we have a process in our system called Ability Map, which maps a combination of human capabilities that drive performance. It's like it is a psych test in the background, but it's looking at capabilities, and that's determined by the client. It helps us make people measure their competencies, because under the current environment, with so much pressure on getting people into your business, you tend to jump into a situation right before analysing, is this the right person for our culture, our environment? So you really need to be careful about that. Otherwise, it's going to be another cost on your business. Getting the right people in place and looking after them and retaining them is paramount. That's why we've got now ERG, engage, retain, grow. If you don't engage and don't retain, you're not going to grow. That's sort of in our philosophy. So, you know, we've built that into our process on the permanent side now for our clients. It works. They determine the competencies that they require for their particular role, and we work with that and then create an assessment called ability map, which maps each applicant against those competencies, so they get the choice of the right people for the right job.
I'm glad that you're talking about competencies, and if I can just go to CVs, if I'm looking for someone who's a bookkeeper, I get this CV and it's got everything on there about being a bookkeeper. I know you're a bookkeeper, it says you're a bookkeeper, but what are your values and will you fit the environment? So Fiona, I talk with RP, we talk about fit over skills all the time.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, look, Catherine, that's actually been a conversation that has been around since Adam was a cowboy. And I know, over 20 years ago when I joined the industry, we were talking very much about that. You need to look for the person who's going to fit well within your business. You can train everything if you have the opportunity to. Not all businesses have the opportunity to train certain skills. If you look at a lot of our graduates coming out of university, they have a specific skill that they may bring to a business. That's fantastic. But at the end of the day, and I think there's one thing that we've all learned through these tiring times with the pandemic lockdowns, is that it does make you look back into your business to make sure that everybody is doing okay, and that the people that you have within your business are on the same page with you. Everybody reacts differently in a pandemic, and it's then that you actually start to notice maybe the gaps that you have in your business, or people notice that they have strengths that they didn't actually bring to the fore previously, and they are now bringing those to the fore. It's a great time for businesses to look at their staff differently, and for staff to actually try things that they haven't tried before, to be fair, and to show the strengths that they have, and also to be comfortable with some of the weaknesses that they may have as well. As we've said, everybody in a lockdown situation reacts differently, and it's not until you are pushed into the corner that your true person will come out, and the true emotions will start to come out, and it's there that a business owner has the opportunity to go, that's the aha moment. I had no idea that you felt that way, or I had no idea that under a normal business moment those particular characteristics of you as a person were hidden. So I think it's there that you can actually have a little bit of time to look within your business and find the gems that have been lying unknown, and bring them to the fore, and allow the ones that were maybe carrying the load to take a little bit of time back and let some of those other people come forward again. But look, at the end of the day, a business thrives on the culture and the community that's being developed within it. And we, try and encourage even our own staff, if they are working with us, and we've still got lots of staff that have worked with us over the 13 odd years that we've been running ERG, who still keep in touch with us. If it doesn't feel right at that moment in their career with us, we would rather that they moved on and went with our blessing and with our support than to try and hang in there because they were fearful of something. That doesn't help anybody. And I think in a pandemic, with the lockdowns, people do have more time to reflect on what's working and what's not working for them, and look for passions that are going to drive them in conjunction with the work that they do every day as well. It's a great time to try and figure out what you really love and what you don't have and what you don't like, and be brave enough to have that conversation, even with your business owners or your managers.
Absolutely, and I challenge all business owners out there to reach out to ERG Recruitment and also look for that aha moment in themselves. Maybe they need to actually look into having that competency test that you produce, and just see where their strengths are, to know the type of talent or the best people that they can work with, and also to understand what areas that they might need to improve on or to adapt with the people that they're working with. We're going to wrap this up. Obviously, it's very clear that recruitment is about the plan and the action. It's also about the people, the community, the humility, being heart-centric. Onboarding and great culture is so critical, and so I want to wrap this up with asking each of you for a tip. What would you do right now as a business owner in looking to retain your people? So we'll use the middle one, retain, because right now that's really important. John, start with you.
One tip, I think it all gets back to really maintaining your contact with your people and understanding where they're at. Their well-being is paramount in keeping them and retaining them in your business. So constant communication with them about how they're feeling. And I know that's difficult, and it's almost, how would I say, being a sort of like a parent in many ways. But boy, there's some challenges for people out there. And I think the best thing you could do is maintain that contact and ask them continually how they are feeling. It might seem a bit, I don't know, over the top at times, but it's important.
Yeah. Well, it's even also knowing your people. Like even the other day, I was reading about a company who sent their staff member popcorn because they knew they had children, and it was like a little movie pack, and it was just like moments like that just really warm your soul. You know, you just get it. So, Fiona, what about you in terms of retention of people right now? What would you recommend?
Look, again, I think, Catherine, it goes back to giving people permission to show their vulnerability. You know, we talk a lot about vulnerability in the recruitment industry, but in life in general. And on the collabs that we have with all our colleagues that are running recruitment industry businesses at the moment, we do talk about that vulnerability. And we, you know, personally, I think it's really important that people allow that in their day-to-day life. And if they are comfortable enough to show their vulnerability, it gives you an opportunity to then help them move in a direction that is going to be more comfortable for them. So you don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid to show that you are scared, concerned, you know, feel like you've lost track, or that you're not coping at that moment. And we all have those moments. Even as business owners, we have those moments where you just want to put the doona over your head and go, yeah, I'm just tapping out for the day. We need to give permission to everybody to move with the moment and take some time out, take a big deep breath and go, oh, look, actually, I need to reach out and ask for some help or support, or just turn it off.
Absolutely. And don't overthink it as well, is what I say to people. You know, yes, Mary was behaving in a different way today, but don't overthink it. You know, we're in a pandemic. Everyone just needs to be kind and thoughtful. Ask that question, how are you doing? What can I do to help? And for everyone that is watching this right now, obviously for me, I want to do a shout out to ERG, to the General Manager, RP Jack. RP is actually recruiting business advisors for me here in the Engine. And one thing I love about RP is she's constantly keeping in touch, giving me updates, letting me know that, you know, where she's at in the process with various people. And, you know, that's all that I want is I just want to know that my opportunity is in good hands. And without having met Fiona and John 2 years ago through Scott Patt Business Finance, we wouldn't be here today. So thank you both for taking time out of your day to come on here and talk to the people on LinkedIn Live. And obviously we're recording it. And for anyone else who's watching it, how can they get in touch with you, John?
Well, you go onto our website. There's plenty of information there about how to get in contact with us. I think the website is the best idea, and I'll give you some background into the company as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're all there.
And just for everybody, Fiona and John are in the sunny Hawke's Bay, and in Auckland, we have got our typical sunny, rain, wind, and everything else in between. So, hey, look, John and Fiona, you guys have a wonderful week, and I love what you do. I love your passion for the community, for the whānau, and you know, kia kaha to all of your people, your staff, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Catherine. No, it's a pleasure. Really appreciate it.
Matewa.
Have a great week. See you later. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.